Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I have a tremendously special guest with us as I am talking to sort of a fellow publisher, a book marketing strategist. And I love having these conversations because you get to share with like minded people, and that's always fun. So, Malene is joining us today, and she's an author, a business strategist. She teaches experts, teachers, speakers, and other freedom seekers how to write, publish, and market their books. She is also the editor of more than 30 nonfiction books, which on average sold 5 times market average and created significant business growth for the authors. Malene, is a futurist at heart, and as a business model innovator, she is determined to find new ways for authors to connect with their audience and strategically use their books to build their businesses. You couldn't find a more perfect guest for the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you. Welcome to the show, Malene.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm happy to be here.
So, Malene, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to have you do some teaching and training in the second there because we are going to talk about NFTs, what they are, and how you can use them to build your business. But first, I would love for you to just introduce yourself because this is your first time on the show and share a little bit of your story. How did you get to this place where you're now helping others use their books?
I'm still working on getting that as a simple story because really it has been anything but a straight path. And on one side, it's like it was all a coincidence, and yet there's a there's a like a straight line through it all anyway. So yeah. So when I was 8 years old, I read lots of books. I was very frequently visiting my local library,
Mhm.
carrying home bags of books. I picked the thinner ones so I could read more books every weekend. And they knew me there, let's
Mhm.
say like
Yep.
that. But I had a lot of books of my own, and in my room I created a small library where the other children in the street could come and they could read my books, and there were even
Mhm.
small pieces of paper and a pencil, and they could write their story. Honestly, I don't think anybody ever showed up, but in my mind I had that business back then. And it probably lasted for 2 weeks. But anyway, it's just to tell you that books has been a part of my DNA always.
Mhm.
But my
Yes.
career path was completely different. I am not as many who are teaching how to publish books or how to write book or are book editors. They have a more journalism related background.
Mhm.
But I didn't start out as a writer. I have been studying a lot. I have 6 different
Mhm.
educations, and I love doing these major. The thesis was a perfect task for me. I was that annoying student that finished up weeks or months before we were supposed to hand them in. So I always loved working with big amounts of text and structure things. But my career path really started with 7 years of accounting. I knew very
Mhm.
quickly I'm not gonna stay here, but it was I worked with entrepreneurs, and they needed a
Mhm.
lot more than accounting. So I actually learned a lot, and I was young and learning economics. You can always use that, right?
Mhm.
Then in the 90s, we all had to learn how to use a computer. And in Denmark, I think even maybe Europe, we have something we call a computer driver's license. So
Oh,
it was
really?
7 modules of learning how to use Excel, PowerPoint, Word, the operation systems, how to use the internet. There was a course in that back then.
Now 3-year-olds
Databases,
don't even thinking about it.
all of that. But I was one of the first. No, I was not an IT geek, but I was one of the first who was teaching it. So I was learning the night before, and it was okay because nobody else knew anything. So you learn from those who were willing to take the first steps. So I did that for 7 years. That was in the education sector. And then
Mm.
I got a job as an innovator in an insurance company. And this was back when all of innovation was related to physical products. So it was very
Mm.
exciting to develop using design methods. We used theater methods. We
Mm.
did a lot of crazy stuff, and I loved that job. Got promoted because I was good at it several times. But the problem was when they promoted me out of that role, I started getting bored. I
Mm.
didn't like all of that political game that happens at
Yes.
the upper levels in the corporate life, and in I realized, sure, I'm good at this. I can do this. I might even want to do it for the salary, but I'm leaving a part of my personality at home. So at some point, I quit the job. I started traveling. I traveled and traveled and traveled. And then I thought, if I'm going to keep traveling so much, I better travel for a longer period of time and figure out how to make money while I travel.
Yes.
So I went to Peru, and I thought I was going to stay for 5 months doing different kinds of consultancy. I very quickly got consultancy tasks, but I thought I would stay 5 months, learn some Latin American business, learning Spanish, all of that, and then travel the South America for 2 months, and then go back home. But I've been there for less than 3 weeks, when one of the consultancy tasks that our assignments that I got was that to create an investment proposal to a Danish publisher, and they had a self-publishing platform to invest in a small startup in Lima, Peru,
Mhm.
that was covering all of Latin America, and they were digitalizing already printed books into ebooks.
Mm.
So they said yes, and they asked me to stay on board as the CEO of that self-publishing company. So there, I learned the business from the inside. I learned all of
Mm.
the terminology. I learned the processes. I also learned what we didn't do well enough, that nobody was doing well enough. And
Mhm.
one of the things that became clear to me is that there are very different segments in terms of authors. There are
Mhm.
authors who write fiction, or they write that where authorship is their job. They
Mhm.
have to be excellent at writing. Then we
Yes.
have the segment that has a very personal story. They lost a leg to cancer, they lost a child, they overcame something horrible in their life. And for them, writing is important because it is a part of their healing process. And they
Yes.
really just want one other person to benefit from that story, and they are
Mhm.
happy about that process. And then we have the entrepreneurs that publish
Mm.
nonfiction books, and they use it as a branding or marketing tool. And really, the writing is not important. Of course, it has to be a great book, but they are used to communicating whatever they're teaching, or talk about in public speaking. Their knowledge is super organized. They don't need
Mm.
creativity in terms of their message. That's already something they worked on maybe for a decade even. So they are completely different segment. What they need is visibility. So the sales strategies, everything is different as for which segment you belong to.
Mhm.
So this was my starting point. When I then came back to Denmark, my inbox was full of people asking me, "I heard you did something with book. Did you go to South America? And why books in South America?" And then I started helping them as a book coach. So that's how I kind of found my way back to books. And I love that we nowadays, nobody has a saying in what kind of message you can get out into the world. And
Mhm.
we need that. We need that. We have such big problems in the world that we need to work together to solve them, and we need to share our ideas and knowledge. So
Mhm.
I love breaking down all of those barriers for all of these uh, goodies, to all of this gold
Mhm.
that people hold on to help them let it come out, get out there, and help other people.
I love your story, Malene. I was one of those kids. The library was just down the street.
Yeah.
I was the kid that was always in the library, always getting books. Dad, buy me this book. Can you buy me this book? And I didn't go for the thin books. I went for the books that were like 2 levels above my reading grade and couldn't understand the vocabulary. And can remember, being with my dad on the couch and he'd be reading a book and I'd be reading a book. Dad, what does this mean? Dad, what does this mean? And he'd be like, "Will you stop reading books so much?" Because he's trying to read his own book, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, "Will you stop reading books so much above?" I said, "But the other books are boring, Dad."
Yeah. I loved it when the Harry Potter books came, because then I could read for my son and me at the
Mhm.
same time. It was equally interesting for both of us.
So, Malene, we're going to just shift gears here. I want you to talk about NFTs. So, first of all, there's probably a lot of people who don't even know what they are yet.
Yeah.
So, spend a few minutes talking about that. But then, how can entrepreneurs use them to build their business?
Yeah. And it's difficult to answer those questions very briefly. It's we need to understand this is a huge mind shift that's
Mhm.
going to happen. It's a technology shift, but it's also a very big mind shift that it
Mhm.
takes to take advantage of these new opportunities. I need to start really to explain what Web3 is first, but I can do that very quickly. So if we think about the internet, back in the days when we first got the internet, it was companies and bloggers who created. Had tech savvy people. They were programming web pages
Mhm.
that we could then read. And for regular consumers, like I was at that time, it was amazing that I had all information in the world available at my fingertips. But it was a one-way street. I could
Mhm.
read the internet. So that's web one, that's reading the internet. Web two is what we know now. Nowadays, that's social media has made it possible for everybody to be a creator. The
Mhm.
user interfaces and has improved so that you don't need any technical skills to be a contributor to the internet. So every time we're posting something, we're uploading something, we are creating the internet as we know it. But
Mhm.
rarely we are the owners of that content. Even if we have the copyrights, we're not the owners of the content. As soon as we post it on social media, they own the data, they own the content, they own everything. These intermediaries that are controlling our content,
Mhm.
um, that's it's it's not only in the social media space, it's in many spaces. In banking, for example, people don't like that banks set the rules for how they can transfer money from the other part of the world, or I should maybe say they cannot.
Mhm.
Or it takes forever, it's expensive, you cannot transfer money across the world very easily, or even from one person to another person you have to wait. So today I had to buy something and I needed to charge that card. It would take 3 to 4 days. What? In a digital world? So we don't like these intermediaries. We don't like that Facebook owns all our data. We don't like that publishers get to decide which books can come out in the market or not. They cannot anymore, but they could for the longest time. Um, so these intermediaries, bigger centralized entities with really very few, if you think about it, even globally,
Mhm.
how few people are in fact really making the decisions about how society
Mhm.
works. So this satisfaction with who is in power is increasing rapidly,
Mhm.
and it's connected to uh, at the same time, in parallel with the development of the internet as we know it, in parallel, since the beginning of the 80s, there were pioneers, geeks in the basement, who were developing blockchain technology. And
Mhm.
Web3 is blockchain technology. And unfortunately, many think the first thought is something with crypto speculation in new currencies, and it's probably all dangerous and full of scam. But actually, the blockchain technology is one of the safest ways of distributing content. We
Mhm.
can we can document ownership without any of those entities necessary. We
Mhm.
can do transactions of money between two entities without any bank involved. So there are many of these dissatisfactions that Web3 is a solution for. So Web3, where when Web1 was to read and Web2 was to write or create, then Web3 is to own. So every time we create something on the blockchain, we are the legal owners of that content and of the
Mhm.
data, which is, by the way, all transparent. So it's very difficult to tamper with this, and or fraud even is uh,
Mhm.
is much more limited. So
Mhm.
for authors, what does this mean? One thing that it means is that we can publish our book as what is called NFTs. So the Web3 consists of many things. It's like um, what is that called? Like an umbrella term that
Mhm.
covers metaverse, social tokens, cryptocurrency, and also NFTs. And NFTs is what I have dived the most into. So NFT means a non-fungible token. It's a weird word, fungible. I guess that less than 1% of
Mhm.
people will know what that even means, even if you're a native speaker, which I'm not. But even native speakers don't know what fungible is. What it really means, we will get other terms that people can easier understand, I'm sure. But right now, it's called an NFT, non-fungible token. So. Uh, Fungible means that if I offer you $10 bills, and say, well, do you want a dollar? You don't care which one you get. They have the same value. They can do the exact same thing. They are not individually. Um, it doesn't make a difference which one you own.
Mhm.
But if it's non-fungible, they're all unique. They would all be registered individually on the blockchain. Each would have their
Mhm.
own block on the blockchain. So a blockchain is a chain of blocks. So every time we create something, we have a transaction about something, we're creating a new block on the blockchain, and it just becomes longer and longer and longer. Um, and this means that even if you publish your book as an NFT, for example, maybe you want to offer, you decide, do I want to offer an unlimited amount of NFTs for this book? Or do I want to have another strategy that says, man, I think maybe 5,000 people would be interested, but I'm only going to offer 100 and make it like more like an auction. And I will
Mhm.
have a strategy to raise the value of that so that when they trade it, the value will go up. And one of the great things that an NFT can do is that if I sold it as an NFT book, I would get my royalty the first
Mhm.
time the book is sold from me directly to the reader. But I would also be able to get royalty when they trade it among each other. So
Mm.
this is like in perpetuity, I would still benefit from this book, but and at the same time, I can make it um, a limited amount of books. So
Mhm.
we come back to some of the more old-fashioned strategy with first editions, and we can think completely different strategies around this when we are the actual owners of the book. So you can
Mhm.
say we're also still the owners when we publish on Amazon. I still own that book 100%, but the
Yes.
system is defined by somebody else. They
Mhm.
determine the royalties. They determine which if I need to offer exclusivity to get into KDP
Mhm.
Select or not. They determine all of the rules. But in NFT, in Web3, and with the NFTs, we set the rules, and we get customer data. So when I sell books on Amazon, I get what some people say that how do I even know the numbers are true? That they just tell me what is sold or how many is sold, but I don't know who that covers. So how do I know that's true? I think they need to protect their brand. So I'm
Mhm.
sure the numbers are true. Um, but I get accumulated level of data. I don't know who exactly bought my book, and I
Yes.
have zero possibilities to connect with them, only through the book, but not directly to the buyer. You
Yes.
can do that with the NFT. You would be able to know exactly who at this point has the 100 books that I published as NFTs.
Mhm.
Even if they sold it again, I will still be able to know who has it now. And then I need to correct myself a little bit because I don't actually necessarily know who, but I know their wallet address, not their email, but I know their wallet address, what that they use to purchase. So in their wallet, they have my NFT. And
Mhm.
if I want to, I can send them the next chapter of my book to that wallet address. Even though I don't know who it is, I can still send them it's
Mhm.
called airdropping. I can airdrop a chapter of the next book, or I can drop other pieces of content like a video course. Maybe I'm creating a course that's called NFT for authors. I could drop that to the people who purchase the book,
Mhm.
and and doing so, I might create an expectation among my NFT
Mhm.
holders that Malene, she's pretty cool. I think there's gonna come more to me. So I'm gonna hold on to this NFT because the value will go up, either
Mhm.
because I want to sell it and I think the value will go up, or because I don't want to miss out on what I get because I'm an NFT holder. So
Mhm.
it's a mix of, you can say, as like shares, it's an investment.
Mhm.
Like a share is an investment. You could buy stock, and that would be quite similar. But it's also a little bit like a loyalty program where you
Mhm.
can earn points in certain bookstores that hosts NFT books. You can earn NFT points for reading, so that you can buy something more. You can trade them, and it's also, a token is like a key. So it
Mhm.
gives you access to something. So
Yeah.
I could on my website create that course or have a community on my website. And the only way to get in there is that you are an NFT holder. So what you would do is to paste your wallet address, and it will look up in your wallet, do you own that my NFT or not? If you do,
Yeah.
you get access. If you don't, you don't get access. So these are some of the things an NFT can do. You can use them for voting power.
Mhm.
For example, we could vote about which book should I write next, this one or this one, or which
Yeah.
front page do we like, this one or this one,
Mhm.
which cover. Um, do we want to let 100 people buy the next book, or 1,000 people? What should my strategy be? You could let people vote if you take it to the extreme. You could even allow these NFT holders to be part of what is called a DAO, a decentralized atomic organization,
Mhm.
DO, and allow them ownership to the book itself. So, for
Mm.
example, if you imagine, there's still some technical issues in actually implementing that, but that would, I'm sure that will be possible really soon. So you could say that my next book, my newest book that's just coming out these days, uh, if if I have a mission with this book. I want to
Mm.
change what publishing is for authors. So
Yeah.
I could go the traditional way and say, this is my book. I'm the one who's supposed to profit the most from it. And I will do the marketing, and
Mhm.
I will create all of these traditional channels. That's one
Mhm.
perfectly fine strategy. But I could also have chosen to say, I'm going to find 1,000 people who share my idea of what publishing should look like.
Mhm.
And I'm going to sell them an NFT, and then we're going to split the royalties from this book. This would mean that I would have 1,000 people who were NFT holders and who had an interest in the value
Yeah.
of that to go up. So what would they do? They would market the book. So
Yes.
this is ownership. It's all
Yeah.
about owning and have a direct connection between the creator and the NFT holder or reader.
Wow. Wow. Okay, it's gonna take a while to wrap my brain around that one. We may have you back at another time to go into that a little bit further, but thank you. That gave us a really good basic for it. we're going to slightly switch gears because we've only got a few minutes left. Now, you've been the editor of more than 30 nonfiction books, and you've written your own books as well. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, first of all, tell me about some of the books that you've written.
Well, they are all nonfiction books, or the majority. There are a few that are a little bit different, but they are all nonfiction books. They are all entrepreneurs who use it as a branding and marketing tool. So yes, we want to have as many books out there as possible, but we
Mhm.
are less concerned about the profit on each book as we are with the visibility. We want it to get out there.
Mhm.
So, for example, we use strategies also that will allow us to get it into the hands of more people,
Mhm.
maybe even sacrificing sometimes profit. So what we do is we create a system where the book is the centerpiece of their business. So
Yes.
the book is what gives them the opportunity to do public speaking, but it also
Mhm.
goes the other way around. They sell books while they do public speaking, so it kind of
Yeah.
go both ways.
Mainly,
And create online courses and so yeah.
I was actually interested in books that you've written yourself.
Okay, okay. So my first book was called Marketing Made Human. That
Mhm.
was a book I wrote because I saw one, human marketing is going to be a huge topic. So riding those waves, what is coming
Mhm.
next, it's very much in my nature. That's why I worked in innovation before. That's why I
Yes.
taught IT while I was where I had to learn it the day before, right? Um, so I like doing that for myself. But also what I realized was that many of these course creators that I was working with, they they were not they were not fans of marketing and selling.
Mhm.
So, and I realized that they were trying and felt they had, what they had to do was to do as well with their marketing and branding as the big brands, Coca-Cola or a big competitor, someone way out of their league, first of all, that had
Mhm.
a completely different foundation in their business, but also um, people don't trust corporate brands, but they trust personal brands. We trust
Yes.
people. We don't trust those corporate brands. So the more you to make, I'm going to make it short, but the more you try to look like a big corporate brand and look everything perfect, like
Mhm.
you need a videographer to create an online course. No, people like it when you do it on your phone because they want you. They don't want
Yeah.
that uh, big corporate professional brand. They want a
Mhm.
person. So this book is about overcoming and making that mindset shift and understanding where that
Mhm.
reluctancy to marketing is coming from. So I tell actually
Mhm.
little bit of history. So why we program like this and how do we
Mhm.
get rid of it? So that was the first book. The second book that is coming out now is called Next Gen Author. And it's about what Web3 is, what NFTs
Mhm.
are. So the first part is about what is this societal trend that is carrying the technical trend, the blockchain technology,
Mhm.
and how does that fit in with what we can do and with publishing. So I
Mhm.
actually also dive into what are the problems in publishing today, and
Yep.
how do we overcome them. So the second part is what could authorship then look like. I call it authorship reimagined.
Mhm.
So that's the second part, and then the last part is a, a, a helpful framework to help people identify the best strategy for the type of audience that they have. So I go dive into four different categories of customers or customer types
Mhm.
uh, that will all uh, we will all have to deal with Web3. So if the listeners here are right now thinking, or viewers are right now thinking, but I'm not sure this Web3 is for me, I'm just going to skip that one. No, you're not. Like, we didn't skip the cell phone, or we didn't skip
Mhm.
having a computer. This is something we will all have to deal with. It will be more user friendly. You will need to know less about the technology behind
Mhm.
it very soon. But it's something that we're all going to deal with. We're all going to have a
Yeah.
digital wallet. We're all going to have, but we're not going to want to use it in the same way. And neither are your audiences. So
Mhm.
to identify what type of audience do you have, and I have those four categories, and then I outlined a strategy for those. And there's some checklist and what you can choose. I'm going to do this, that, and that. So there is a long list of ideas also in the book.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Malene. This has been a pleasure having you on the show. I
Thank
just
you.
want to encourage everyone that, if this is something that you are interested in, make sure we will have a link to Malene in the show notes and you can connect with her to find out more about this and how you can use it in your business. So, this has been Malene Bendtsen and Kim Thompson Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode. Bye now.